3000.
My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by a photographer, a gig promoter, and a bit of a hip-hop head, Deets, Detour. Is that what I should introduce you as?
100%. No, thanks for having me. Thanks for the intro, man.
No worries. No worries. Look, I know that you're into your photography. I know that you're into your gigs that you do and you put on yourself. But I thought it'd be cool to get you in here and find out a little bit more about you, your relationship to hip hop, and obviously you're part of the scene. So I'm stoked that you came. Let's start at the beginning, man. Whereabouts did you grow up?
Thanks. Thanks again for having me. I grew up in like South Oakley, East Bentley area, so like the southeast. I guess I went to but I didn't go to high school in those areas. I went to high school in Cheltenham, which is kind of like a few suburbs away. But yeah, I kind of grew up those areas, but now I'm living on the north side with my partner and my family. It's completely other side of the world, but you know, it's literally like I lived in South Oakley. If you measured the distance to the city, it's probably the same distance on the north side, you know?
It's funny how I think only people in Melbourne or cities of this size can understand that something can be geographically so close, but then so different.
Yeah. And it's the beauty about it, you know? Literally, I remember when, like people from overseas would come over and you'd go through St Kilda and they'd be like, oh, this looks like Florida, or it looks like places in America or something. And then you'd go to other places or like, you know, Springvale or other places with different cultures and stuff. And they're like, oh my gosh, like you turn a corner and it's almost like, there's lots of Greek culture, and up my way there's lots of like Middle Eastern culture, and then like growing up in the southeast it was like lots of, you know, Italian and Turkish and Greek.
Yep. Greek, that's where you get some good Greek food down there in Oakley, man.
It's the best Greek food, man. Always on the hunt for those good gyros.
Yeah, I've got to get back there. It's you'll get a good open souvlaki there. Fucking good times. All right, so when you're growing up in that sort of part of town, what are kids doing? You're riding skateboards? Are you breakdancing? Like, what are you fucking doing?
Myself, I was like a skater. Used to rollerblade initially, but then got on the skateboard.
See, this is something that people don't ever really want to talk about.
Yeah, it's funny.
Because when we were, and I don't know how old you are, but I'm 40, almost 41.
Yeah, 40. I'm like early 40s now.
Right, so it's people are kind of embarrassed about this, but we'll put it out there. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, kids rollerbladed and skateboarded, and then skateboarding kind of took over, and then no one ever talked about when you were 7 or 8 years old and you rollerbladed. It just was never spoken of ever again.
It's so true. But look, rollerblading was a massive thing. Like I remember watching them in like the X Games, and like I followed it pretty big, and like I used to get into street skating a bit. But I used to play ice hockey as well and roller hockey. So I think that was my savior, you know? So I was like blading all the time. Like that was my transport. And I don't know if you remember that movie Roller Boys back in the day, or Roller Boys. I think it was like Corey Haim.
Okay.
It was like
I don't remember that one.
It was an old school.
I remember Airborne, the rollerblading movie.
Yeah. Oh, maybe it's that one I'm talking about. I don't know. Maybe it's that one. Is that the one? It's got Corey Haim or Corey Feldman or someone?
I don't know. One of the Coreys. All American kids that are actors in the 90s must have been called Corey.
You're right.
They're mostly called Corey. So, yeah, but it's interesting because rollerblading's got a bit of a stigma to it, but a lot of people did it. Even professional skateboarders and people that I know that have gone on to have careers in skateboarding, they used to rollerblade back in the day. It was kind of just like you did both until somehow, I don't know what happened, rollerblading dropped off a cliff and skateboarding that was the thing.
Don't know what it was. I don't know if it was like Tony Hawk bringing out the game, or I don't know.
But that was more, I think the first Tony Hawk game came out in 99, I think.
You're right.
So this sort of, the death of rollerblading, I feel, was a bit earlier, maybe 95, 96.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know why it happened. I don't know. I do definitely remember lots of people getting given crap for being rollerbladers or being bladers.
Yes.
You know, it was almost like looked at as being a bit, you know, pansy or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. But then, I don't know. I used to see people like rip it up, man, do some pretty crazy stuff like jumping stairs and rails and stuff, like almost as extreme as like some of the stuff you see. And then even sometimes you see on scooters now. I'm like,
yeah. Well, the scooters wasn't a thing.
Yeah,
until
I know.
You got to like
right.
2000 or whatever. But like even say like SMC in the city.
Yep.
they would sell rollerblades as well as skateboards. But
Yep.
that was where you went to buy a lot of your skate gear, and they would still sell rollerblades. It was kind of accepted
Yeah.
until a point where I think, we'll have to do some research on
Yeah,
that. I need to
that's
find an old
SMC. Wow,
SMC,
that was
yeah.
such a cool place with the ramp in there. And
Yeah,
that.
they had the ramp at the back. They had that blank piece there.
You had to go up the big wooden stairs with your
Stairs.
rollerblades on, and oh, so cool.
Yeah, so
Just love that.
rollerblading was accepted, and then it just changed. But and then you got into skateboarding, I'm presuming.
Yeah, so like a lot of my friends I went to school with, definitely when I went to high school, I think they were the influence in terms of skateboarder friends. And there was lots of skateboard parks popping up around the place. So probably as I moved into the, 15, 16, hanging out, just a good place. And I used to like that whole camaraderie of, going out to spots to skate and sometimes going camping with people and stuff, just to
Go on
find different
missions.
Yeah, 100% missions all the time. Everything was a mission. We go to the milk bar was a mission.
Everything felt like a fucking
it
mission.
It was.
And that's when you sort of discover hip hop, I guess, through that.
Yeah, 100%. It's weird. I always loved hip hop. In terms of I had an older sister who was into like I don't know, like TLC and like Salt and Pepper and like Queen Latifah and like, but more like R&B-ish kind of stuff like Blackstreet and stuff like that and Boyz II Men. But then I think I know she bought like the Dre Chronic album, and that was just something that I think, just hearing Snoop and like that whole West Side sound, I think I just got kind of hooked with that, and then just started delving into like, of all things, gangster rap, like Ice-T, Ice Cube.
But that was what was happening at the time.
It was.
It was probably the easiest thing to access for you.
And I think it was still like the whole, swearing in music. At first it was that intrigue, but then it was like listening to the music a bit more, and that I think just being young and just knowing that you can listen to something that's made on the other side of the world. But you're right, it was very influential at the time. Like 90s was like, Michael Jordan and the Bulls and everything was America, like. Yeah. So I think that was when I kind of caught wind of it. But my skater friends were the people that put me onto like Dilated Peoples and like Wu-Tang and like probably the hip hop I should have been listening to, but I was just like caught up in like the whole gangster rap sound at the time.
I feel like skaters embraced Wu-Tang very early. That was like a huge thing before a lot of the other kids at school, because I'm at school at this age, they're talking about Tupac and these other sort of big artists, and the skate kids were the ones that really sort of brought Wu-Tang to the front of it.
Yeah, even like Tribe and D-La, and I remember like hearing like old R.A. the Rugged Man, or even just like old mixtapes like I don't know, just all those old mixtapes that were going around, like the Ruckus records and stuff like that, and just hearing these like artists alongside like maybe young Eminem or unheard of Eminem at the time, but just like like Mos Def and like Talib Kweli, and being exposed to like that kind of underground sound a little bit at the time. But, I think it was just, but I still embraced like the gangster rap. Like I loved Corrupt and the Dog Pound, and I don't know, I loved Lil Kim. Yeah,
well, that's after that first Snoop record. Then it sort of opened up a whole, like there's all these other sort of similar artists that are doing something that's, that was an amazing record. But then, like you said, the Dog Pound and all that sort of stuff. And then people are like, fuck, man, this is a whole different genre within itself that's sort of a subsidiary from the gangster stuff.
Yeah, and just obviously like watching Death Row Records grow and that whole... And probably just when we were young, that whole East Coast, West Coast beef, it was almost like a teams thing, Like it was like, are you Team Biggie or Team Tupac, Like, I don't know, it was probably the high school days as well. But I used to also like, we were talking about this earlier, like, rock, and I love funk, I love jazz. So, I've always like loved hip hop, but I've also, like, my dad used to play like classical guitar and like blues and stuff, just like in his own time. So I guess like,
but that's something that's, when you look at even like the Chronic or early Dr. Dre stuff, he samples, borrows, pinches, whatever you want to say, from a lot of that really cool instrumental stuff.
Yep.
And even the way that if he does new keys or whatever, that's really kind of, it stems from samples and stuff that he's picked up from past musical genres. So if you like that sort of stuff, that is an easy entree to fucking what that's about.
100%, you're right, because you learn about it as you get, older, or you look into it more, or you take more interest, like in terms of samples and stuff. You're right. Like I listened to you talking to Checkmate and stuff about samples. It's like, it's just, I don't know, the more that you hear things, it's like, you're like, oh, that's that song, got that from there, and it's like, it makes sense, right? Like they were probably like influenced by the music they were sampling, right? Like,
yeah, well, you can't help be influenced by everything everywhere.
Yeah.
And now there's that awesome website, I think it's Who Sampled, and you can go on there, type in, and you're like, fuck, I didn't realize that drum beat came from here.
Yep.
That little thing. And living in this day and age, like, it's cool because you can sort of scratch that itch. Like, I've always wanted to know where that came from.
Yeah.
Wasn't that easy back in the day.
It's so true. And even going further to that, I've seen recently a guy in America, he's been putting things up on Instagram and stuff, and it's like locations of famous like album covers.
Yeah.
Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
It's so dope. So like goes to like pins the location and shows you like the shot and then the album
like,
cover.
Yeah,
and
like this big L corner and this.
Yeah.
That
So
is pretty
smart.
cool. It is, man. Or even the people that'll take the album cover art and hold it up there and makes like a cool photo.
Yeah.
That's sick.
It's like, man, I don't know. We've kind of come like in terms of like, always being in like hip hop or being interested in it. It's funny how like in this 50th year, even you're seeing all these interviews come out and stuff that you didn't even know about from 20, 30 years ago, that when you were interested in this stuff, but the behind the scenes stuff, or people are talking about it now because it's the 50th year of hip hop and that, like
everyone is saying it's the 50th year, but I'm not disagreeing with it, but it is hard to, because people say this is the birthplace, but as a whole, as a culture, as everything, I think it's hard to put a finite birthday on it.
So true. It's so true.
Something that's, I'm not saying it hasn't been a culture for 50 years, but I'm sure before that people were breaking.
Yeah.
When do you say the first person was writing graffiti? I had Duggo on the podcast. There was dudes writing graffiti in Melbourne in the 50s.
Yeah, in the trains. That's crazy. Yeah.
Like, so it's
debatable.
It's awesome to celebrate it, but I think it's also a hard thing to put a date on.
It's true. I seen someone share a video the other day, and it was like old Nigerian footage of them, like what looked like they were breakdancing, but it was like them just doing some tribal dance thing, but it looked like early breakdancing. That was like 60, 70 years ago, It's like, wow.
People have been rhyming words since, I'd say, speech was invented.
True, yeah.
These two words sound good together. So I guess there obviously is a part where people said, well, this is hip hop and we've got to give it a birthday.
Yeah.
But it is a very tangible thing.
Oh, and it seems to be not touching veins, but it's funny. Like, definitely this year, like I've heard a lot of people from various elements give their opinions on, what's the date or what's not the date, or, who did what.
Who named it, all this sort of stuff. Like, look,
I feel like it's good because it's like it's more like knowledge for us, right? Like, because we're older, we've been here for a while, we've seen it, like, or been around it for a while. It's just good to hear things like that you don't know about. So if it's more than 50 years, then it's good to know these things. We're learning about it now. It's
and as kids who grew up on the other side of the globe, 40 years ago when we're babies, whatever.
Yeah.
It's being exposed to something. It's a whole new culture on the other side of the world was hard, but now we can get this knowledge and we can learn about it and we can teach about it, and it becomes sort of something that is more tangible to everybody, and we can spread it.
Yeah, and this is what I'm all about it. I'm all about that whole forever being a student to whatever game it be, life or, hip hop or...
Yeah, you never know everything.
That's
You've got to keep
right.
learning.
Yeah, and like some people come in this game, like, not in this game, but in the hip hop scene, I feel like, people feel like they have to pretend like they know everything. It's like that whole bravado thing, the ego thing. I don't know. It's like...
You brought up before, you mentioned the elements, and I think that's an important thing because a lot of people think hip hop is just a style of music, but it's not. Obviously, there's the 4 core elements, and some of them are more popular and some of them now seem to have gone. Everything's gone in its own way.
Yeah.
And now these 4 elements have their own subcultures within themselves.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see, and even observing it from Melbourne's point of view, like obviously from a world point of view, it's great to see like all the breakdance battles and obviously the graph heads all around the world just continuously doing their thing and evolving and making like new styles and just like being inspired by each other, and even seeing like people like Shem or some people here who are still grinding like day in day out, like doing pieces every day they can, like and then speaking to them about why they do that, because they want to continue to evolve and continue to learn and just get better at like doing arrows, like, and doing letters and stuff. It's like, I joked about before when I was doing the sketch, I'm like, I'm whack hand styles. It's like, because I don't practice every day, like if I practiced every day, I'd be all right, but I just don't.
You've got to keep grinding away.
You have to,
but that's
right?
the thing, because I think even people that for lack of a better term, have made it in whatever their craft is, they don't rest on their laurels and they keep pushing and they keep doing it.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is sort of part of it, because if at the point when you think you know everything and that you've made it, then you're fucking going to start going backwards.
100%. And like, yeah. And in terms of the elements, like we always try and, I don't know, man, like from the Get Down point of view, we've always tried to highlight the elements and spread love to like local artists. For example, when we get the artworks done, we always try to get different people to do it. It's never the same artist.
And still paying homage to a traditional sort of hip hop aesthetic. Yeah,
and like, we've been lucky enough to get some artists to do stuff in Hosier Lane, or coordinated some production stuff with some graffiti writers and stuff, So again, we're just trying to like, we can't do it. I'm not a graph writer, I'm not a rapper or a DJ. So, it's our way of, I guess, me and my business partner's way of trying to give back in terms of, doing that.
And facilitating the people that do want to do that.
Yeah.
And that keeps the culture alive in a way that some people may have the skill set that they can paint, they can break, but they don't have the skill set to put together a fucking event to all get together.
Yeah.
And that's where you come in.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I try to utilize the skills I've got and be a conduit and connect people. It's funny though how you're talking about the subcultures though. It's definitely something I've learned a lot by doing what we do. Like, we've been doing this for 6 years and I still feel like I'm learning about these subcultures, like the graph. I know some graph writers and I know like who's respected and who's who, like in terms of that, because I've always been a student of graph. I used to take photos of graph when I was younger on the train lines and stuff, just for my own personal benefit, But now, like, I'm starting to be exposed and meet these people and like have mad respect for, And then like with B-boys and B-girls, I'm like, that's a whole other thing. It's a whole different realm. It's almost like, and trying to understand why they do what they do and why they kind of not segregate them, but they stay in their pocket,
Yeah. It has definitely, the cultures have gone in their different ways.
Yeah.
Obviously, with the MCing and the DJing, it stays together.
And even then, it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't. Like sometimes there's no DJs. Like some people, there's just an MC.
Yeah.
And like, that's another reason why we started doing what we're doing. We used to watch artists rap with like
backing track,
their homie with a laptop. Like, and I'm like, it's aesthetically, it just doesn't look right.
Because I think that came along because the rappers stepped to the front.
Yeah.
And then they thought, well, I've got a producer, I'll buy a beat, I'll get my mate to fucking do this for me, and then I'll go there and I can just do the rap stuff, because that's the most important part.
Yeah.
So, like, if you think of all the 4 elements, if you ask my nan, if you ask any Joe Blow on the street and you said hip hop, they would say, oh, people rapping.
Yep.
That's what people generally
Straight away,
associate it with.
Yep.
And then, that's what's even younger people, that's what they presume it is.
Yep.
So I think, people slowly get educated. And obviously people within the scene understand that it's deeper than that. But that became the prominent side of what most people knew. And from an advertising commercial point of view, they think it's just the rappers.
Yeah, you're right. It's so funny. And it's funny, man, because like, again, I used to be like a bedroom DJ. You were saying how you used to do some DJing and stuff as well. But when I was younger, I used to be like do the friends parties and stuff like that. But I remember one time when we went to go see RZA when he came, and went to the after party at 7. And like, I remember I never know security guards when I go out. Like, I just don't know security guards, like, let me in or like that at all. But I knew this guy used to do promoting for like rave parties back in the day. He was a security guard there. And he was like, when RZA and that were going in their car to leave, no one was allowed to like go out the club just to mob him,
Yeah.
But he was like, yeah, man, go out there. So I went out there, and the first thing I did was go up to the DJ and be like, man, DJs don't get enough respect in this game. Big ups to you, because he did the whole DJ of the after party. You know what I mean?
And
Like,
that happens a lot.
yeah, and RZA was like, big ups to you, man, like, because he recognized I was recognizing the DJ, you know. So and I went straight to shake his hand first before RZA's, you know, like, not being disrespectful, but I was just like, man, just killed it for 3 hours in this club, like, you know.
And you don't get the props you deserve.
Yeah, like, and it was just like, I don't know, it's a moment for me, I don't know. And I've always thought about that every time, even now, like when I speak to J Red or DJs, it's like, just kind of feel like they're not underappreciated, just underknown, undervalued, under everything, you know.
Out of every part of the elements, that is probably the thing that obviously technology has changed the most. And I can understand someone like himself who, you know, grew up doing it with wax and buying your records. DJing has changed monumentally.
Yeah.
I understand with graffiti, there's new nibs, there's new can pressure, but at the end of the day, you still got to do it.
Yeah.
There's cheat buttons in DJing now. There's sync buttons, there's digital music, there's all sorts of different things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's hard for some people that have done it from the start to really feel that they've got their just desserts when it comes to that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The other elements, it hasn't changed that much.
Yeah.
You can't push a button and learn how to do a head spin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then but you're right. But what you were saying before about the MC kind of just taking the forefront, it's almost like in their mind they don't need a DJ anymore,
which is sad, because that means that they're not really respecting the thing. And look, hip hop has gone in its own different directions, and I think some of the more trappy new school stuff, it's not a relationship with the DJ. It is, I like that beat, I bought that beat, I'm going to do this. I don't acknowledge that guy anymore.
Yeah,
you know?
that's right.
They might throw that guy's calling card, that name stamp at the start of the song, and that's about all there is to it.
That's right, yeah.
And that's, I think, potentially why some of the older heads that are into their boom bap and traditional hip hop find it hard to fucking get behind the newer stuff.
It's true, man. Look, it's true. Look, I see like why sometimes the older heads not so much hate, but can't so much give the love or props to these younger cats. But then again, like sometimes I see like the younger cats not so much knowing any different, right?
It's
So sometimes they come in and they're just like, I want to do that, or I feel like I'm talented, or I can do something, you know, artistically, you know, and then they see what people in, you know, their age group or what in their genre are doing, and then maybe they look overseas and see what people in their genre are doing, and then it's accepted over there to rap over their lyrics, for example, you know, like for big people like DJ Khaled, who will come out and do it at, you know, in front of thousands of people, you know what I mean? But then, so there's young cats here will be like, oh, I have to do that, you know what I mean? That's how you do it, you know? But then they don't have like someone like Checkmate, or they don't have like J Red sitting there like, come here and I'll tell you what not to do, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
schooling
like,
them on how it works. It's interesting. Like, say you look at Spotify now with like I can't remember what it's called, but there's like the local hip hop thing, and you look at it and you're like, okay, sure, a lot of these people might be from Australia, but that doesn't sort of sit with me. Like, it's sort of it's different. It's definitely different now. But I feel you guys do a good job with your gigs, that you try and bring the old and the new sort of heads together. Yeah, which is cool. Yeah, because it is all under the umbrella. And there's subgenres within the subgenres. Yeah,
you know, and look, there has been times where sometimes these new and old school, you know, the old school heads have some, you know, maybe connected with some of the newer people, and maybe they've gone on to do collabs or work together in the future, you know, and maybe it's not just because of the Get Down, but it was, again, maybe we've helped to be a conduit to connect them, you know, but it's like, there's definitely, that's why we do what we do. And sometimes people look at us like, why are you putting us on this lineup with these people from over there, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, because that's why we're doing it. Like, we do this because we're trying to bring, we always try and celebrate, like, you know, we try and keep it as hard as it is to do, we try and keep it as equal in terms of like male-female ratio in terms of artists, you know, like we try and celebrate both male and female artists in Melbourne. So we celebrate soul, R&B, trap, rap, hip-hop, you know what I mean? It's like, we've had people on with guitars and stuff before, and you know, we've had bands on stage before as well, like doing like, you know, soul singing, sort of, you know, with backup bands and stuff. So it's not always just a DJ and an MC, but mostly it is.
But you do a good job of blending the old with the new and giving these new, I'm gonna say, new style of hip hop a bit of introduction to the older guard.
Yeah, that's, I guess, again, it's probably like what I'm trying to do is obviously break down these walls that I feel
Which
like
they are there.
Yeah, there's definitely walls here, you know, and it's you know, I feel myself sometimes, you know, sometimes see the walls coming up around myself. I'm like, stop doing this, you know what I mean? Because it's just like we're in this environment where they're everywhere, right? Or we're in this.
But it's supposed to be a culture that's pretty accepting, and so within subgenres to close each other out is very narrow-minded.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know if it's competitive. I think it's like there's not a lot of like in terms of opportunities, in terms of like for example, like things like this, like podcasts or media or Triple J's or you know, there's not enough of them in Melbourne, so people will be like, I've got to be like look after myself, and you know, what if that person gets my connection, or what if that person finds out that I'm talking to this person and they're going to get me a gig, you know?
Because
so
it's too insular.
Yeah, so I think that I'm trying to like we try to break down those walls, you know. So again, bringing people from different crews, like genres together, but it's not like crazily like we're not getting like death metal and you know, like I don't know, happy.
Has
hardcore.
it happened before where you've introduced two artists that probably are from different sides of that spectrum and they've ended up collaborating together and stuff?
Yeah. Again, like so. For example, like Sin Santos is someone who's a very melodic rapper, kind of. Some would look at him like a new school rapper, but he's signed to Universal in the Philippines, so he's got like a distribution deal and stuff. And like you know, he's like making some waves, like But you know, he ended up doing a collab with Motley. So Motley's very old. You know, I guess people look at him like the old school head. But again, like hearing those two different styles, but they also got another guy in who's like an African rapper. Again, kind of three completely different styles, and they're rapping about hip hop, you know, at the end of the day, but just in their own kind of way, you know, like, and it worked, you know.
Yeah.
But so it's not because of what, you know, the get down. But you know, maybe those circles of people maybe not knew of each other beforehand, but then when they go out afterwards, they're like, I seen you at the Get Down, or know of you because you've done stuff there and that, you know what I mean? Like it's more of association kind of thing.
And it's building the community and sort of bringing them together.
And that's what we're trying to do, you know.
With breaking, when we're talking about the elements, does it spin you out that that's going to be at the new fucking Olympics?
It does, man. It
strange,
does.
isn't it?
It does, and like I remember when it was announced. Because it was just when we were coming out of COVID lockdowns and stuff, and I remember like thinking to myself like, this could be cool, like if we got a night like where we could have a place where breakers could come and practice, you know, like train for the Olympics, you know what I mean, like get ready, you know, like a battleground. But then I was like, man, the more that I kind of looked into and spoke with people in the scene, I'm just like not in that scene, right? And I wouldn't want to disrespect the people in that scene to do something that's like, you know, I see why they put their own gigs on because they're about it. They all know each other. They know how it runs. You know, I wouldn't want to be like do something a little bit half-assed. You know what I mean? Like,
out of all the elements, that is probably the one that isn't as represented anymore.
Yeah.
And it goes through, like, I remember it did have a resurgence in the, like, 90s. It was big in the 80s, obviously. Then it was big in the 90s. And we haven't really seen that 2000s kind of resurgence again. And it seems to be a strange choice for the Olympics to think this is what the kids are doing, because I don't know whether it is.
No, like, I feel like it's really, like, it's really underground, man. Like, it's not underground, but it's like they do their thing. Sometimes I find out about parties afterwards. I'm like, I wish I went to that party. And it's like, man, they're all the same people that run the same things.
But the parties that you want to go to like that, it's like at Section 8 or it's at somewhere that's small.
You're right.
That's cool. You don't want to go and see that in an auditorium.
Yeah, you're right.
Like,
it's so true.
That's going to, because you want to be clapping in the circle. You want to be right in it.
Yeah, you're right.
And I can't understand how that, what are they going to be up there like on a fucking judo mat and they're going to be breaking? Like,
yeah, they're just thinking gymnastics in their head. Like, yeah, this could work. You're right. I know what you're saying.
It's strange. It's like, obviously, the last Olympics, skateboarding got introduced.
Yep.
And they got a lot of the big skaters involved. A lot of them were like, nah, fuck this.
Yep.
But a lot of them did do it. The commentary was horrible. It just seems so sterile. And
I know.
So
and they were like, it was like they were excited to see like people do tricks. I was like, man, this is like, people rip it every day, you know what I mean?
All the time. I think that when, obviously, I think the Olympics are probably in some trouble anyway, trying to find their audience.
Yeah.
But as much as breakdancing is sick, I don't think that's going to be good for
know.
either breaking culture or for the Olympics.
No, you're right. If
I'll
anything,
watch it just to see.
that's right. Yeah, you're right. You'd be like, yeah, just to see how it goes.
See how it works.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's going to a lot of new viewers.
I know. And what are the commentators going to be like on that? Oh my god. It's gonna be...
Do you think that they've just looked at when like Red Bull sponsor those events and stuff, and they go, well, let's just roll with this?
Yeah, we want that.
And I think it is, maybe it's a much bigger subculture in the Asian sort of countries,
Yeah.
I think, than here, but there's not a huge scene here.
Yeah, I think in the European and Asian, you're right, countries, it's definitely bigger. You're right. It's used to be something that when I was younger, you used to see people break, right?
At parties, they would. And
at train stations, man. Like, even like, that's like way back, but you're right. At parties, definitely, and like, but just like people just breaking, like, you know what I mean? Like, you just see people popping, whatever. Like, and now it's like, it's almost like they're in the alleys, like they're after dark, like near the museum, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost, you have to go find them. It's almost like the drains. It's like, oh, you have to go
and
know who you
search
know
for
and
them.
stuff, you know? Like,
Which makes the subculture cool because it brings it back underground.
Yep.
But like a lot of things go in trend cycles. And I just don't think we've seen that one come back in that sort of 20-year kind of cycle.
you're right, 100%. And look, I just don't think they want to, just don't think they want to be, I get the feeling that they want to be like used or exploited.
Which is totally true.
Yeah.
There's no bigger way to be exploited than the fucking Olympic Games.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're
right.
really ripping that culture and commercializing it to
Yep.
the nth degree.
Yeah. I mean, it's again like we've had some b-boy crews come through the Get Down. I think initially when we were doing the Get Down and starting it out, because I was just like, I wanted it to be a hip hop night, and I wanted everyone to get along, you know. I wanted everything to be perfect, you know. I think initially I was like always wanting to invite them and try and get them to come down. And then when they wouldn't come, I'd be like, oh, you know. But then it just got to a point like, if they come, they come, you know. Like, I'm not going to try and force it on them, you know.
But it's like the gig promotion in general. It's a grind. It's a hard thing, and you know, like, you just think you don't want to beat yourself up about it. You can offer someone a product. If they want it, they want it. If they don't, they don't. And sometimes it's just it's a grind, man.
Yeah, man.
And you must find that with like all your promo. You can put in all the promo, but sometimes things just, if it just doesn't hit or people aren't in the right frame of mind, it's a tough one.
It is, and it's like, yeah, it's
a shame people don't support the scenes a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the same people that say, oh, there's no cool gigs, are also the ones that aren't going out and fucking doing that sort of stuff that would progress the whole thing.
Yeah. Look, but then again, like, you can't force people to like things like that. Like, I tried to do that as well, you know, like all my old friends and that, when we first started doing the Get Down, like, you have to come, you have to check these artists, they're amazing. Because in my mind, I'm like, they're incredible. Like, you guys need to see these people. You guys like hip hop. These guys are hip hop. You know what I mean? Like, but then again, I was kind of like, the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know, these people, like you were saying about subgenres, people are in their own worlds, right? So some people are like 100% family and that's it. They never go out, or, you know, rarely go out. Or some people are 100% into their art or their piano, or, you know, like whatever it be, you know. Some people are just in their own world. So I guess because I was so in my Get Down world at the time, you know, organizing 3 gigs in advance and stuff, you know, like trying to be like on top of it so much, like I think I was like struggling to find why other people weren't as excited about it as me, you know. Like, why don't you want to go see local music? You pay $100 to see Drake or whoever it be, but you won't pay $15 to go see 10 like awesome acts, you know what I mean? Could be the next Drake, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But then again, it's like, again, you can't like force that horse to water, you know. And
it's the other day when I spoke to Checkmate, I said to him, I'm like, obviously you seem to be comfortable in the underground. That's where you are. And from like a promotion perspective, I guess, you know, that's where you are, but you always want to sort of step up, and that's where I guess a little bit of frustration must come from, because you think, if we do sell these ones out, then we could do something bigger. We could have the graph crews on stage, we could do, you know, and then you can level that stuff up.
It's funny that you say that, man. I've got like my business partner who's MC Wasp, right? So MC Wasp and I, we went to kindergarten together. We've known each other since like I think my mum and his mum were in the same hospital when we were born and stuff. So like, it's like,
has he been rapping forever?
Yeah, pretty much, and doing drum and bass and rapping, like, you know, spitting for ages and producing and stuff. So yeah, he's like always been into that, man. But he's someone who, kind of like keeps me in check in terms of what we're doing, you know? Like, so sometimes I'll be like, yeah, we need to get bloody, you know, the biggest thing in Melbourne right now because we need to sell tickets. And he'll be like, no. What we do is we basically provide a platform for people who we think are dope and need that platform who are coming up, right? And then sometimes we get people, like you were saying, like the OGs, like people like Checkmate and Info Jones or Motley, and we've been lucky to have these people on, but I feel like it's almost because they support what we're doing. So it's almost like them going, you know what, I'll be on that because
they're giving back.
Yeah. They support why we're doing what we're doing. So, you know, I think there was a time there where I was like, oh, we need to get a headline act to get, you know, numbers in the door so that the opening act has people in front of them, you know what I mean? Like that was my mentality, right? But then it just, you know, had to be checked a little bit. I think COVID helped me check it a little bit as well. Just why we do it, like reflecting on what we do and why we do it. And then when we came back, just like being really careful about how we re-entered because things were a bit funny.
It's changed people's sort of ideas and all that, you know, when they want to go out, what they want to do. People are more content to stay home.
Yeah.
Look, people do more stuff online now, which is kind of cool, but, you know, to lose that whole live music, live interaction thing, you know, it's...
And especially because everyone was bitching about not being around during COVID.
They should be out supporting.
Everyone was like, oh man, as soon as you get them events back, I'll be there. But, you know, again, you can't force people because, again, those people also got taught lessons in terms of what time means to them, you know? So
yeah, totally.
It's time and money.
So you're saying that you've been around for 6 years, so you've done it at a bunch of different venues.
Yeah.
And is that the plan moving forward, just to keep sort of obviously growing the brand, but growing the venues, growing where you're going, moving forward, just getting bigger and better?
Yeah, look, yeah. Again, like, we know we're always trying, like, to, you know, grow and evolve and not be stagnant and not be, like, the same kind of stuff. But we're also, like, not trying to, you know, again, I think initially I was like, oh, it'd be good to get, like, a festival stage initially and stuff. But then that's not, like,
overheads.
Yeah, it's not really on the radar, man. Like, I'm more about, like, you know, what we're doing with, you know, with FATS, for example, at the moment, or like trying to help out where we can see it's benefiting the community, right? Like, so it's like, it's all good to be like, oh, that'd be good for our brand being, you know, on a festival stage. But then again, like, helping out a business who's trying to bring, like, you know, hip hop community together. Yeah. I'm like, man, I'll invest my time there for sure. You know what I mean? Like, and help out them, because that's, like, in the long run, it's going to benefit, and it's in line with what we want to do. You know what I'm saying? So
that's it. And you do it like a lot of people. You do this is your passion, and you do it for the love. You still have to balance this with a full-time job. Like, talking to a lot of people that are in all sorts of subgenres, all sorts of creative endeavors. This is something they can just do on the side. They've got to still balance that with their other job. That must be tough as well.
Yeah, man, 100%. You know, 100%. And I heard Checkmate sort of referring to, like, music as, like, you know, like therapy and stuff, right? So, you know, I think I do this obviously because I love it. You know, I wouldn't do it otherwise, but, you know, it's maybe a little bit of therapy for me too, because I can see, like, the benefits it has for, you know, people. For example, like taking people to their first radio interview or something, like, and just seeing them being, like, nervous, but then getting through it, and then maybe the second time they do it, they nail it, and they're just like, they know what to expect and stuff. So, like, I don't know, providing little opportunities like that, you know?
Yeah, totally. So do you find that you, because you do that, we haven't even touched on it yet, but you do the photography thing as well, and do you find that you take some younger artists under your wing a little bit and sort of say, oh, this, you should do this, you should do that? Yeah,
definitely, man. Like, so I've always had interest in taking photos, even before doing the events and stuff. So even just going out to gigs, like, I'd always try and sneak a camera in and get some photos and stuff. But yeah, I guess when I taking photos at gigs more seriously, I think that's when I started connecting with artists, and just, like, that's what exposed me to what you were talking about before, like the lack of support locally, especially when it comes to, like, amazing artists. Like, I was seeing, like, artists who had been in Sony deals previously, but maybe just doing their own thing now, and just, like, 5 or 10 people there, you know what I mean? It's just, like, it's sad because they're actually doing what they want to do now, like, musically and artistically, but just the promoting wasn't great, or the people they were dealing with wasn't great. So I don't know. We see like a kind of an avenue to fill there, and because I was taking lots of photos of artists and being around it, it's making a few more connections with the artists and stuff, and just I don't know. I seen like various opportunities to try and like big up and coming artists. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and look, let's be honest. Record labels, from all reports, they're shit. So, and I think that they might try and jump on someone when they see that there's some value in it, but I'm sure that they disappear as soon as that artist doesn't produce exactly what they were after. Yeah. So they need some direction and that sort of thing. Yeah,
and like obviously, like again, like Checkmate touched on it and briefly in your chats. It's like there's these people. It's like it's rare for people to be big, I guess, or to make it in this industry. There's probably like a handful like making money off it, like
there wouldn't be that many, and unless you are willing to, for lack of a better word, sell out or just to try and elevate your music to the next level, I don't think you could sustain. I don't think anyone could.
No.
Without there's just a handful, very few. So, and that's what's cool about the culture, is that people actually are doing it for the love,
100%.
And you buy somebody's t-shirt or you do something like that and they'll DM you, thanks for that, man, because no one's making any money.
Yeah, that's right, man. Yeah. And you're right, the support is so much more real, especially when it comes to like buying physical copies or t-shirts and going to a show is one thing, but you're right, that extra like buying a t-shirt or I don't know. I think it's more than just subscribing and hitting a like, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like...
I'd love people to subscribe, so definitely subscribe. No, but that's another thing. Like, I think there was a trending voice sort of meme going around, and it's like, if you want to support an artist, and it's totally free, it costs you nothing, you just like them, subscribe... Follow them, comment, just do that, and it takes you no time. Like it takes you you're not even paying anything, but they'll appreciate that, and that's something that I don't know if we live in a time now where people are too absorbed in themselves, or they just like, how hard is it to just sort of click a like? But in this community, people do help each other out a bit.
Yeah,
but I think some people that are in their own little communities, everyone's stuck in their own thing.
Yep, man. Look, and a perfect example of this is I don't know if you've heard of Strictly DT. He's an artist from around here. Yeah, so he will buy a ticket to a show that he might not go to. He'll buy that ticket even though he knows he's got other plans. He'll be like, man, I have to support. I bought the ticket.
Get the numbers up. Yeah,
that's right. He's like, man, he sells his merch at gigs as well. So he'll have like a full-on suitcase, man. Like, and after he gets off stage, he'll open up the suitcase with his t-shirts and his CDs and stuff. And he's smart with it. Like, give someone a sticker and a CD or something when they come up to say like good set, whatever. And it's like they're there in front of his stuff, so it's like they feel not obligated, but man, if you just like dap someone and said great set, like you're almost if you got money, then like you get the stuff, you know what I mean? Like
that's the thing that is so hard for me to get my head around, is people just not supporting other people, but yet they will jump on a trend to buy some other, like, as if fucking some big huge international artist needs you to buy their tour merch. You know, you're just showing everybody that you went to some gig, right?
Yep.
Like, I went to the Wu-Tang Nas gig when they were here. The line for the merch was ridiculous. So long that no one... I made a bet with my mate. I've still got to buy him a Wu-Tang t-shirt, because I wasn't going to line up in that. But people were lining up around the corner, and they don't need the money.
Nah.
Right? So, and I get it. It's kind of cool. You get a t-shirt that says Melbourne on it, and you got a fucking Wu-Tang W. But... So show that support to a local brand, even if it's not like merch, but buy some local brand like Burn or fucking whoever it might be. Show them the support, because they'll appreciate it more than these huge artists will.
Oh yeah. And I heard someone recently say, "Oh, I don't support that Melbourne, I won't say the name brand, but clothing brand, because they're too expensive." And I'm like, yeah, the reason they're too expensive, bro, is because it's all Melbourne made. It's like, they do things differently, right? Like, it's like people, like, they look at that price and they're like, they're charging that. You know what I mean? It's like, well, maybe look into why they're charging that.
Look, I don't...
Like,
there's only a handful of brands that would really be making a lot of money out of it. And I think with those sort of brands that are making a lot of money, you want to kind of get in and get out because your stuff will not be that fucking cool pretty soon.
It's so true.
So,
but then something like Burn, like it's just like longevity, you know what I mean?
Totally,
Like,
but I don't think they're making.
Of course, they just
millions
like
of dollars
doing it for the love.
But
as
I think
well,
there's
100%.
some brands out, Melbourne brands now, or even just Australian brands that are doing really well and are probably turning over 7 figures. And good luck to them, and I hope they've got longevity. But I think we've seen lots of brands that have done big numbers, and then something else comes along.
Yeah.
And the kids that are buying it, that are 21, that are 19, especially now with in the social media age, something else will come along that's hotter.
It's true.
And your shit will just be,
It's true, and it's interesting to see. So funny you mentioned that. Have you seen that? I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Judder, the brand Judder. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Have you seen how they've been like marketing this stuff? They do like pop-up things in the city, make people run around the city and stuff. And like, look, I see why the kids love that stuff. And the stuff they have is like almost anti-industry stuff on their clothes. You know what I mean? Like it's very aimed. It's almost cursory, like, you know what I mean? Like in terms of like, they got their crowd, you know what I mean? Like they know who they're going for, but it's got to a point now where people, it's like rare stuff. People want that, they need it, you know what I mean? So it's like the hype is real, you know? So comparing that to say something like Burn or like even Wanderer, like they're like, going through the in Foot Locker and trying to get in the shops and stuff, you know what I mean? Like whereas Burn's just like constantly like always been there, like and you see people interstate or internationally even with Burn, so and people recognize it,
They do. I think like with Wanderer, like I know Steve, like that isn't a thing that's just happened. He still grinds it out, like, and he's in a lot of stores and all the rest of it. But it's not, you don't just click your fingers.
Course.
Like there's a lot of grinding that goes.
I know. I
into
talked about it like a simple. So
no.
you're right.
I don't mean it like that. I just mean that like there is anything independent. There's no easy way to do it.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
There is always a grind that goes into all that sort of stuff. And doing anything independent, I've got so much respect for, because then 100%. You're doing it on your own terms.
Yep. Yeah, and again, that's why I do. That's why I support Wanderer. I support Itch Pig. I support Burn. I'll support Melbourne brands when I can afford to. You know what I'm saying? Like when I have the money to. And but I've got to the point now where I'm like, we had an American artist come over for one of our recent get downs. A guy from LA, 1,000 Words, and he noticed just walking around Melbourne streets. He was like, man, everyone's wearing LA this, New York this, everything is America, bro. Like he was like, man, Columbia University and UCLA, and I'm like, man, I didn't really like notice it until he said it. I'm like, man, everyone's got an LA cap on and New York cap on.
But I think that fashion trend has come back. Like we're talking about the cycles, because the 90s is kind of back. You get your throwback jerseys and your snapback hats have kind of come back, and everyone wearing the Raiders hats and that.
And
so
the college stuff and that. Yeah.
So I think that just goes in sort of cycles.
Yeah.
But from Melbourne fashion in general, if you walk through the city, there's definitely what's popular, but there's a lot of different people wearing different shit.
You're right.
Which other cities you'll see a much more homogenized, sort of style sense.
Yeah, and I feel like we've always kind of been like that, man. I feel like we've always kind of like, well, I have been anyway, but I don't know. Into what I was trying to say before about like those clothes, man. Since he said that to me, man, I'm like, I just want to buy Melbourne stuff all the time. Like I just want to like always wear Melbourne stuff or like merch and stuff.
I try to. One thing I want to do with this podcast is there's like Oz Music T-shirt week, but do something like that. So we'll do a week where you work. One day it's just a Melbourne brand, the other day it's a Melbourne artist, the next day it can be something else that's sort of like that. So you kind of. It may not make people buy more shit, but it can't hurt.
It's celebrating it too. No, great.
Exactly.
Do
so
it, man.
I feel like that sort of thing, just celebrating Melbourne arts in general.
Yeah.
And like I was saying to you off camera, I seem to have fallen into this hip-hop realm, which is sick, and people do love it. I've got a good audience of people that are digging it, but I'd love to just explore different subcultures.
Yeah.
And I just want to try and, I can come back to the hip hop stuff. It'll always be there, but maybe just get out there and talk to some other interesting people in different sort of.
Well, like you said, Steve and, clothing labels they're interesting people, and their stories are interesting too. Like, I think, there's so many people. Obviously, I know a lot of people in the hip hop scene, but I'm just trying to like think, photographers and
Yes.
videographers. There's videographers
So
out here
Michelle
doing.
Grace Hunter said
Oh,
she'll
awesome.
do it, and
Awesome.
she's obviously doing a lot of traveling, and she's doing the whole rule thing. So she'd be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be
Again,
amazing, yeah,
when
yeah.
you bring that back, she's very focused in the hip hop thing, but she's got a lot of stories.
Oh yeah, 100%. Big ups to Michelle. I mean, like again, she was someone I reached out to when I started taking my photography seriously, and I was like, "Got any tips for me? Like, what can I do?" And I think she was a bit funny about it at first because she was like, she's like very much that, she was established and,
yeah.
and she's like, she's probably used to people in the scene being like trying to like take advantage of maybe her skills or what she's doing. So I was just being inquisitive. I was like, man, like, what should I do? What shouldn't I do? You know what I mean? Like, so I had a good conversation with her, and she's been super dope. Even when she was at Kiss FM, she used to like invite us in to speak to the artists and stuff. So yeah, she's super dope. She'd be awesome to speak to.
Yeah,
man.
she'd be great. And I just have to. She just got back from the US. I'll need to reach out to her and make that happen.
Yep.
But I just need to try and. I've got a lot of the hip hop guys lined up, but I need to sort of you'll have to.
Documentary makers.
Yeah. Look, definitely. There's a bunch of people that people always DM me or comment and say you got to get this guy and whatever. You got to get this chick, and for a lot of them, I've already sort of asked them.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, or they're just not ready, or they're like, I don't want to talk about myself.
Yeah.
So it's not everyone's down to do it.
Yeah. And I'm with those people. I'm usually not down to talk about myself, but again, it's like, in terms of like watching what you do and the conversations you've had, I was like, man, I'm down for this. It's like I love what you're doing and trying to tap into these subcultures because I'm interested in the subcultures in Melbourne too. Like
with a lot of the subcultures, from an outsider, you don't really know what goes on. So you're like, oh, this is cool. Like, how does that actually happen?
Yeah.
Like, I would, with the breakdancing community, I'd love to talk to someone there, which you could probably tee it up, but like someone who is still doing that, week in, week out, even if they're just, another one I'd love to talk is someone who's into the whole parkour thing. Like, I don't know anything about that, but every now and then you'll just see people do that, and I'm like, fuck, how does that even work? How does that sort of,
Yeah, wow, that would be sick, man.
I'd love to get someone, one of the people from the Sharps, like that Sharpie scene back in like the late 70s or mid 70s. 70s, and then it sort of ended in the 80s, but yeah, that would be cool as well. But I haven't found anyone who's willing to do it. A few people have said you should talk to this dude, you should talk to this person. I'll message them and they're like, I wasn't big enough in the scene. But any sort of cool subculture that's Melbourne focused, I'd love to chat about that.
I love it. I think there's and you were talking about it a bit with the stickers, man, slaps, and even like graffiti writers and mural artists and
and within that job, which most people from an outside looking in say it's all graffiti, but then you've got your graffiti purists that say no, vandalism's graffiti. Then you've got your muralists that say, well, we don't do that, and so that's a whole within itself.
Yeah, and look, again, there's so much going on. Again, I have some friends in like some of these subgenres, so it's interesting hearing like their politics that they have very similar to what happens in hip hop or like in the live music. Yeah, it's just very Melbourne though. Like it's just like I don't know what it is. Like I don't know what it is, man. Like it's like very guarded ego thing, but then sometimes people can be like super friendly and help out, and it's almost like getting that, just like breaking down the door.
Yeah, I think, but with maturity comes change.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people that might be ego driven, that might have, then they get older, they might have kids, they might settle down, they don't have all that ego and all that sort of gatekeeperness to them. They're just a bit more chill and they're happy to talk to other people and sort of even embrace different parts of their own little culture.
Yeah, and like you said before about, you asked me about like taking photos, probably like come across lots of people and tried to help guide them and stuff, I guess in a way, like probably without trying to do that, I've done that, like, and I'm sure Frank's done it too. Like he's probably seen people come in, or like, like Info Jones, I know, for example, he's seen like this young artist called Bilali, and he's like taken him under his wing and like been working with like, Sensible J and like Cool Out Son, and like, so it's almost like having like an OG like take a youngin and be like, all right, I see like I see something in you and I believe in you. Let's do this together. Like, you know, it's
Which
dope.
I think with a lot of those people probably had someone else who mentored them back in the day. So they think it's all about passing on the knowledge, which is extremely hip hop.
Yeah. And then even sometimes like these people didn't have that. So they're almost like, I feel like I'm in a position where I can do this. So like it'd be stupid not to. It's almost like not having a father and then being a chance to be a father, right? Like
Yeah.
But I see it. Like I see even
They're breaking the cycle almost.
Yeah.
So they continue. Yeah, there's a more positive vibe coming out.
Yeah, but otherwise it's, you know, because, you know, people hated on Public Enemy and stuff, or people hated on Dre when they were, you know, doing something different back then. You know what I mean? Because it was like the older heads were looking at them like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing it like that? You know what I mean? It's the same kind of stuff that's happening here. It's just
That is, yeah. You've got to embrace change, because if you don't, things will be stale.
Yeah.
And look, I love my old, you know, traditional breakbeat style of hip hop, and it's awesome.
Yep.
But if it stayed like that for 50 years, it wouldn't still be a sustainable genre.
Yeah, man.
It has to fucking grow and progress.
Yeah, and look, there's gonna be flavors that not everyone likes. You know, it's like same with Marvel movies, right? Like I love Marvel and like superheroes and stuff, but then it's so big right now. Like you don't have to like everything, but there'll be like certain things you like. Like you might like Spider-Man, but you don't like, I don't know, the Avengers or something. I don't know. Like you can go and you can just like stay in that little like plot, or you can like it all. I don't know. You don't have to like it all. It's like same with music, right? Like there's a lot of music in Melbourne, like I respect and dig, but it's not something that I listen to, right? Like there's certain like flavors I'll be like, man, I dig that, or
you respect the art, but it's not necessarily for your ears.
Yeah, like and there's obviously like, you know, there's people who like that stuff, but you know, I can't like everything as well. It's like you know, you can't like everything. You know, like
you like what you like.
Exactly, right? Like you have taste buds.
You have taste buds, and you do like what you like. You have asked a lot of people in the last. Well, you put the question out there. What does hip hop mean to you? And you have to now. I'm turning it back on you. What does hip hop mean to you?
You warned me about this as well. I've been like not trying to avoid it, but it's funny because like you're the first person to really put it on me. Because I'm like, maybe if I ask everyone, I won't have to do it. But
you're deflecting.
I know, big time, man. Look, hip hop is like, it is everything to me. I guess like listening to what everyone else has said as well. I don't want to bite like bits of everyone.
No, but that's cool because this could shape what you think.
Yeah, I think like you know, like some people have said, you know, like without hip hop, I honestly wouldn't know where I'd be. Like it's true, you know. I don't know. It's interesting, man. Hip hop is everything. I love the music. I love the art. I love like the movement, the energy. You know, like, you know, I like acapellas. I like beatboxes. You know, I like everything in terms of the elements. But then in terms of like just when you say what does it mean to you, I don't know, man. I think it's just like it's been there at times when, like, you know, when, don't want to be dramatic, like when no one else was there, but it's like, you know, it's been there at times when I've been low or happy or like, you know, grieving. I don't know. I feel like it's educated me, like when I was young, maybe about things that I didn't need to know about at the age I was, but, you know, it educated me about things like, you know, TLC, like talking about like, you know, or Salt and Pepper talking about like, you know, safe sex and shit like that when I was like 12, 13, you know, like, so it's like, you know, although it was like party tunes at the time, it was like, you know.
Well, I think Waterfalls is about AIDS, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. And that whole film
and I
clip
didn't know
and
that
stuff.
till I was an adult.
Yeah. It's, I feel like, I don't know, man, it's hard to sum up, and again, it's probably why I haven't done these videos, and I know I've put lots of pressure on people to answer it in a minute 30, because it's almost impossible to do, right? Like,
but it's interesting because it's what it means to you might be totally different to what someone else.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that I think is interesting about it, and it's a deep question.
Yeah.
Because to someone it might mean this, and to someone else they go, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, whatever.
But I like, yeah, there's like so much. It's like it's even like it's bringing like bring people together. Like, you know, you could say like maybe, I don't know, different groups of people. Some people like, you know, marginalized people, or like different groups of people, you know, and they can be like one, you know, like, you know, it's like metal. I feel like metal does it too sometimes. It's like an environment where you can like be whatever, wear whatever, like
it's accepting.
Yeah, they just like, you're here for the music, you know, rock on, man. It's like same kind of thing with hip hop. It's like I don't know, sometimes it can feel a little bit standoffish, and even in the 90s, like early 2000s, it was definitely like, that whole baggy pants, like back to the wall kind of thing. But I still feel like there was a sense of like respect, like, you're here, I'm here, like we're here for the same reason, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, it was almost like I used to bump into people I never knew just by going to hip hop gigs and be like, man, I remember meeting you at the Corrupt concert. I seen you at the sea walking competition, and then like there was, man, there was, there was a lot of white people that shouldn't have been sea walking on stage, but I remember like, and I seen that dude like at multiple gigs, like the D-Lar gig, and we just bump into each other at the bar and be like, hey man, how are you? Like just like things like that. It's just like but for me it's the energy as well, man. It's like seeing artists like spit, tell their stories, just connections with like whether it be DJs and artists on stage or dancers and stuff. I just love it all, man. Like I love it all. Like I don't know.
That's longer than a minute.
It's 30. Definitely a minute 30. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
While you've asked people to sum up what it means to them, what are some of the answers that you've got that maybe you didn't expect, or that you thought, oh, that's a cool sort of thing that I didn't think about? Is there anything that comes to mind?
I think it's interesting to see, and I said this to Frank before. So I went and seen Frank earlier today as well. I know you did as well, but I went to Union Heights earlier, and I was saying this, how it's funny how I've been getting a few comments and like DMs from people with their opinions on what other people think.
Oh.
So I think that's interesting to me, right? So my opinion is like, look, someone's opinion on hip hop is always going to be different to mine. Always.
It's a subjective thing.
Yeah, right. And like how it's affected them is like, you can't question that, right? Like you can't question and say that's not real, right? So some of these people are like, oh, what that person says, I don't agree with, whatever. I'm like,
you can't disagree with someone's opinion. That doesn't make any sense.
Especially if you haven't done one.
But sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but you can disagree with something that someone says about you or something, but if that is their opinion of because the question is, what does it mean to you?
Yeah.
So it can mean something different to that person, but it's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
So you can't argue with that.
I think some people just have this thing like, I'm hip hop and that person's not hip hop, so I think like, I don't know, my opinion is like, people's opinion on hip hop is always going to be different. So someone who, like my son's opinion on hip hop, he's 12, is a lot different to a lot of things, right? But I guess like answering your question, man, it's been great to see like people like honestly answer it, like just,
and it makes them think about it.
That's right, because it's touched and it's affected people, whether it be positive, most of the time positively, but people have been drawn to it for a reason, right? So, but yeah, it's been good to see just the various people like say it, and some people might think that flashy lights or like that whole fashion thing or whatever, that is hip hop for them, right?
Yeah.
Like so.
Well, if they've grown up in a different time, or what sort of, I think a lot of that stuff would come back to when that person sort of fell in love with it.
That's right.
So it might have been a much more glitzy, time of the whole movement when they've seen it. So that's to them what it is.
That's right. I mean, imagine like, you do see it sometimes, but occasionally you'll see someone come out with like a big gold chain, like those 80s, 90s big gold chains, and you'd be like, that's kind of not this time or era, so it stands out, right? But it's worth a lot of money, and it's a token, or it's meaningful, but it's almost like people wearing like ballies and stuff back in the 80s and 90s, like people wearing balaclavas or like ski masks and stuff. That wouldn't have flown back then, man. You know what I mean? Like, or some of the stuff that people are wearing now, it wouldn't have flown back then at all, but it's just that, like you said, it depends when you've come in. Have you come in at like, Big L, or did you come in at 50 Cent, or did you come in at Eminem? Did you come in at Kendrick Lamar? Or did you come in at Tyler, the Creator? Like, who knows? Like, you could have come in anywhere. Like you said before, skaters were listening to Wu-Tang and Dilated Peoples, and like, man, like, who would have thought? Like, skaters were listening to dope hip hop, like,
Yeah, and it wasn't. It went from skateboarding went from very, sort of your rock punk stuff to becoming very hip hop real quickly. And they were just embracing the underground.
That's right. Again, it's kind of like that whole. And, you know, if you remember when hip-hop did that whole protest against the Grammys and stuff, again, just showing unity, you know, it's like, it's just so powerful, man. Like, and Grizzly Bastard said it, I think, in his one, like, about how, like, you know, whenever shit hits the fan, like, whether it's, like, bushfires and stuff, it's like, hip-hop community always comes together. It's, like, automatic, like a magnet. It's like, all right, we need to do something, like, now, you know?
Because
Like,
I think potentially because it's come from a community vibe when you look, and we're talking about before, the birthplace, but it started in like a community centre for if we're going to put it down
Yeah.
to a date.
Yep.
It always had a community vibe, and generally people that were a little bit, they didn't have all the means to everything, so they got around each other, and it was always been community.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably, it was born from that, and that's why it continues to have that community vibe.
yeah, yeah. And then, like, hearing people say, like, creativity and being able to express themselves, like, you know, like, it sounds so, like, just, like, you know, easy to say, like, when you say that, but it's like, for someone saying that, like, you know, who really, like, may need to express themselves, or like Checkmate was saying, for example, for therapy or something like that, like, it's like, you know, imagine they didn't have that, like,
Yeah.
what would they be doing? Like, you know,
I
like,
think an awesome part about it is that you don't, it's accessible to anybody.
Yep.
Right now, even if you are a kid who has nothing, you can go and get a texter from school and you can write your name on the bus.
Yep.
And you can be expressing yourself. Whether or not you're supposed to be, that's you expressing yourself.
100, yep.
Yeah, so there's different ways that if you've got nothing, you can still learn how to do a windmill
That's right.
with a cardboard box you found at the back of Coles.
Yep.
Like, in any way that you want to try and express yourself. If you've got nothing, you can still write a rap.
Yep.
Like, you can do whatever. The DJing is probably the one thing that you do need
It's like, technically, yeah.
but, you know, but other than that, it's something that's totally, anybody of any means can figure out what they want to do. And there's not a lot of, you know, pastimes where you can have nothing and still express yourself in a creative way.
Yeah. And I think because it's, like, a little bit anti, like, the establishment as well. I don't know, man. Like, I think that it's good because I think sometimes you hear more pure voices, like, whether it be Indigenous voices or, I don't know, like you said, that maybe the underprivileged or people who are maybe neglected a little bit, you know, whatever it be there. I don't know. It's just like, it's a voice for these people. It's a way for them to be able to, like, send their story or tell their, I don't know, send a message
to get their story heard.
Yeah.
And it's a shame now that with a lot of sort of corporations and big advertisement companies and stuff, they seem to be sucking a lot out of that culture and not giving anything back, and that's pretty fucking disappointing when you could see a hip hop song used on a Macca's ad or something, and then you've got a hip hop gig, and then people that are talented artists, it's hard to get numbers there. Like, it's just a frustrating scenario.
There's like a, you know, and there's also, like, people not doing it right as well. I don't know. Again, unnamed festival that's recently been announced. I've seen that they, like, you know, putting up their announcement of all the artists that they've got in their lineup and stuff. And they recently put up an artist, like, their picture, but it wasn't for the artist name. So it was a Melbourne artist who's African descent, but because they look like that artist, they use their picture. So this woman's like, you know, this girl is on her Instagram, like, hey, you know, as much as I'd love to be on this big festival, you know, I'm not being paid, but you've used my picture, like, you know, that's how people.
So they just got a generic image, and tried to just say, this is, right.
You know, and that's just, again, like, people just not taking it. I don't know. Some people just not taking it too seriously, bro. I've seen, like, people's names misspelled so many times. I, like, hit up artists and be like, bro, do you know, like, your name's misspelled on this flyer? Like, how does that happen? Like, for me, I'm always like, I triple check spelling on my posts. When it comes to posters, I have, you know, multiple people triple check it for me, you know, like, because I don't want to have that error.
It's disrespectful,
you know?
straight away. So you want to give these guys their shine.
100%. Like, I remember one time we had a venue and they misspelt the artist names in the green room, and I was like, man, these people are gonna see this. Like, you have to fix this. Like, you know, like, now, like, before they get here. You know, like,
that's not the way to do it.
But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of people cutting corners, which also makes it look bad, or maybe artists get, you know, bad impression, or they feel like it's, I don't know, it's like an uncomfortable scene for some people,
Yeah, I think with some of those newer festivals and some that maybe don't even come to Melbourne, they do them in Queensland and that sort of thing. They get some of these hyped up new people. They try and sell tickets, then it doesn't happen. Then they just pull the rug out, and
Yep.
that seems to be so fake and phony. You obviously didn't do the festival because you give a fuck. You did it because you wanted to make money. And when it didn't quite sell the numbers, you've gone, and we're not doing it anymore.
Yeah, or they get called out, Like I've seen it, like, they get called out. It's funny when international artists almost call them out or pull out the last minutes because they're getting called out. It's like, they're not getting the money, or they're getting, people are getting greedy when it gets closer to it. I don't know, man.
Well, because I think they say to people, yeah, we're going to, international artists, we've got this big festival, here. And then they put their name on the bill to try and sell the tickets.
Yep.
And when it doesn't happen, then they don't come with a down payment. Then it never goes ahead.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not in that game, but you'd think you'd have to have the capital behind you. You shouldn't be doing it like that. That's the wrong way to be doing something.
That's right. And look, that's what my business partner and I, whenever we do our events, we always like we got the money. Like, we're not waiting for money to be like, well, we need to sell these tickets and we can't pay you till we get these tickets. Like, man, we're employed, we've got full-time jobs. Like, we can afford to do this, right? And then, we cover our costs, we have a budget, but, if we don't make budget, we've still got the money to pay people. You know what I mean?
But that's coming out of your pocket.
Yeah, but still, like, we factor in to make sure everyone gets paid. Full stop. Like, people getting paid, and then we can work out all the budget stuff afterwards. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff is like, it's not important to the people who need to get paid. Like, I think that the message we heard loud and clear when we first started doing this was like, so many artists were not getting paid, doing stuff for free, being used, abused, or not abused but used.
No, well, they're abusing their name, and they're abusing them, saying do this free gig, and come to the rehearsal and do all that stuff. Like, that's all time and fucking
Yeah. So look, we always said that, man. Like, even if we don't, like, technically from a get down point of view meet the budget, these people will always get paid. Like, it's just, we've always been funny about that because we've heard so many horror stories about it. We don't want to be the next horror story, but we also want to be legit, right? Like, it's like, we're not here to try and make money. Like you said, we're doing it for the love. Most of the time we don't like hit budget. Like, we just like maybe just miss out, but we learning, like,
and you're growing it.
Yeah.
And you're doing something that you're passionate about.
Yeah, look, we just want it to be sustainable. Again, like, going back to your question about, it'd be good to evolve it to really big things, but we just want it to be sustainable so it keeps going, and then maybe one day we hand it over to someone else and they can evolve it to wherever,
Yeah, and then as long as it's sustainable, then it does open up avenues where you said you might get a stage at a festival where you're not, it's the overheads aren't all on you, but you can just showcase the artists, or you could get, some sort of Melbourne festival could be like, yep, we want to showcase culture. So I guess that is sort of the end game.
Yeah, of course. Look, at the end of the day, we just want to shine the light on the artist, right? So if that's going to shine a bigger light and bigger spotlight on the artist, man, we're all about it. So, going back to it, not trying to be, it's not about me and my business partner. Like, we're always about trying to put on for the artist, right? Like, you probably struggled to find pictures of me, like, when you were doing research and stuff, because it's like, purposely I don't want to be out there, like, I'm trying to be behind the camera. Or
which is cool that you've come and you've done it, what I mean? Because
much love.
Because you obviously don't love to be in the limelight, but you just want to facilitate and help people grow, which is commendable. Like you mentioned Frank before, and like, he's like, man, he's done a lot for the culture, and you really give a fuck, which is awesome, because a lot of people that are promoters or that are in that sort of side of it, they don't care.
Yeah, we get a bad name, man.
Yeah, but they don't care about the artist, they just care about the dollars.
Yep.
And
Shiesty Promoters. Have you seen that movie with Ice Cube and Mike Epps? It's called Shiesty Promoters, and they're like two shiesty promoters trying to like book Jeezy. That guy
I haven't
Jeezy.
Seen it.
It's a pretty good movie, man. It's worth it. It's a bit of a laugh.
But see, this is the thing, and it comes back to the being happy in the underground. Like, I'm sure you would have a breaking even, making budget, cool event than a shit event where you made $5,000.
100%.
And that means that you actually give a fuck about the whole thing.
Yeah, and look, I've even presented business models to people before where I wanted that headline act to get majority of the money. Like we worked at it a way where if the headline acts, I don't know, if X amount of tickets were sold, they would get like 70% of the overall budget. So we worked we were looking at ways we can do that, but again, be sustainable. You know what I mean? So yeah, look, if we made $5,000, it would most likely go to the artists that were on that lineup. You know what I mean?
And that's the way it is. Do you find that the artists that you've had in the last 6 years, do they do their part with the promotion and everything?
It's interesting, man. Again, it's like sometimes people will be like, oh, you should tell them to do this. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like,
but they should. That's the thing. Like, I think the artists that are put on anything should go above and beyond to promote that stuff. And I'm not sure if they...
some people do, some people don't. You know, I feel like it's hard. I don't know. Maybe some people don't know how to do it. Maybe some people are still trying to work it out. Maybe some people think that we'll do it for them because we're promoters. I don't know. Yeah. But then I know that some people, I don't expect them. Say, for example, like, you know, I'm not going to be like, hey, Checkmate, can you post a video at this time about coming to the Get Down? You know what I mean? Like,
I'll but he has shared stuff.
Of course, and he's been amazing, you know. But like, there's other people like Info Jones, for example. I wouldn't be like, hey man, can you like talk into your phone and tell everyone to come to the Get Down on this day at that time? You know, like it's almost like if they do it, cool. If they don't, then we'll do everything we can to help. But 9 times out of 10, they do it. I mean, some people do it more than others. Some people come for the full ride, you know, and they'll promote just as much as we are, you know, like. But you're right. It's almost up to them. Like they're their own brand, so it's in their best interest to do it anyway, right? Like,
and I guess that's a good thing about finding up and coming artists because they're stoked that they're on a bill and they're sharing the stage with other people, so they're going to push it a little bit more. Yeah, they're the hungriest.
That's that? Look, that's It's almost like they're the people who will probably, you know, their homies will probably come and support them if it's their first gig or second gig, right? So it's like, I don't know, the support and love is most of the time it's real with those people. It's their first or second time gig. You'll see like their family. I've had some people's like granddad from Turkey. It was there one time and I'm like, oh my God, like awesome. You know, like it's just, you know, trying to keep it open and I don't know. You're right though, man. It's like those people who are hungry and just coming out like straight out of high school maybe, they've probably got all their high school friends that want to go out and see their homie like spit, you know what I mean? Like whereas maybe people have been doing it for 10 years, 15 years.
More complacent.
Yeah, but then again, maybe they've been hitting up their homies like 10 years ago for every gig. So maybe they're just like, look, if they catch it, they catch it, you know, like. Yeah. It's hard, man. Look, we ask to, you know, but we don't like, you know, it's not like, you have to do this many posts and stuff, you know?
Yeah, no. And you want it to be natural and organic and you don't want it to feel forced. And you do see that with some of the international artists. You can see that they've been told, like, hey, can't wait to come to Australia, go and get your tickets. And you're like, that was not, you know, that didn't come from the heart.
Yeah, and look, and I've seen the difference. Like, I've seen the difference when, say, for example, an artist that we've had on a lineup maybe does their own show for like an album launch or something, and like, you know, the effort and time that they put into the promoting for that show is like night and day compared to when they were on our show. And I don't get mad at that. It's like, it makes sense, right? It's like you're doing
They're more invested.
Yeah, it's like, man, you know, I don't know. It is what it is. There's definitely people who they're all about it, and then there's other people. Sometimes some people don't even like social media, you know, like, you know, and that's like, it's crazy in 2023 to say that, right? If you're an artist, I hate social media, but then it's like, they're the people who want to go out to the gigs and, you know, they want to like shake hands and like see people face to face, you know what I mean? Like,
well, I think if you look at growing any brand, whether it's a personal brand from a music perspective or any brand, the first thing that anyone's going to tell you to do is be active on social media. Doesn't mean it's for everybody, but that's the first thing you've got to do.
Yep.
And build your own personal currency, you know?
Man, I wasn't even on Facebook before I started doing photography seriously. So I wasn't online
Facebook's
at all.
a thing that's slowly, I feel like, kind of dying a
slow
it's almost
death.
Dead.
Yeah, it's almost dead.
It's older people, and we're in our 40s, but I think it's people sort of older than us.
You're right.
And then Instagram is probably people of our age to 20-something, and then TikTok is before that. By the time those kids from TikTok grow, Instagram might be pushed up to, you know, elevated to
Twitter status.
Yeah, so whatever. Like, it's that stuff is social media is a funny one, man, because it's a new medium, but it's hard to sort of get your head around for a lot of people.
Oh, but dude, I don't know, man. I've got like stepkids who are like in their 20s now, but when they were like using Facebook in their like early teens, I think I just seen like a lot of bad stuff that happened like in their lives because of it. So I was like, I'm never getting Facebook and stuff, you know. It just like reaffirmed why I didn't have it, you know. I'm like, oh, I'm not getting Facebook. I hate Facebook. And then as soon as I started doing like any, you know, business with photography or the events and stuff, it was like, yeah, it had to be done, you know. Like it was uncomfortable. I needed some guidance from some people, but you know, it's
a necessary evil.
It really is, man. And it took me a while to get my like my partner, my missus, to understand it as well, like why I was doing it and, you know, why I've got these pages. You know, like especially with Instagram, I was like, oh, I set up my Get Down Apparel page and Get Down TV just in case, like just in case I need those names, you know. Don't use like two or three of those.
No, but it's good to land bank those in case.
Just in case, that's right. Yeah. And then I don't know. Again, it's like there's times where I hate social media, but then there's other times it's like, you know, I've come across people I would never have known about, you know. So
it makes connecting with people really easy.
Yeah.
I don't use LinkedIn. I probably should, but everyone says, oh, you should use that. But I think I use Facebook like that. Oh, this person that, you know, and then from a personal brand, it's a very easy way to do it, especially if you've been in the industry for a long amount of time. You've built up all these contacts.
Yeah.
Like, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's great for everything else.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I think I saw a quote yesterday. What was it? It was someone said, like, and it was someone famous, I can't remember who it was, said, maturity is when you enjoy something and you don't post about it. And I'm like, when I was a bit younger, you'd be like, we're doing this, we're drinking beers, we're doing this, and now you'll do something and you'll just be like, I don't need to share that with anybody.
It's so true, man. I've been like that at gigs, man. Like, I don't even take my phone out of my pocket.
You don't want to be that guy, but you sort of still want to sort of document it a little bit.
Yeah. I do it purposely now. If I'm having a good time at a gig or if I'm really in the moment, I like purposely don't touch my phone. I'll be like, man, you know what? This is for my eyes only. Like, you know what? People should have been here, you know, like it's like, why should I share it to someone? You know what I mean? Like, I understand, like, I'm here, I'm doing this, but then sometimes it's like, no, that was like too good to see. I don't know. Yeah,
and it kind of does ruin the vibe, but at the same time, someone in front of you and behind you, and they're all doing it. So, you know, if you can't sort of beat them, join them at some stage.
It's true. I mean, I went to Little Sims concert with my son. I took my son to his first ever concert, Little Sims. And it was funny. I didn't want to do it there, and I ended up doing it. Even my son had my phone at one point, like filming it. I'm like, man, we're here watching her. Like, you know, she's here one time, like, you know, for this hour or whatever, and we're still like watching through a phone.
As long as if you snap it and then you put it away, but if you try and take 15 minutes of content, I think it's a bit you're not in the moment.
No, I caught myself doing that ages ago at the Wu-Tang concert. Like, I remember just like being there at the festival hall. Like, I need to get every track. Oh, here's Cream, here's Gravel Pit, or here's, you know, like Protect Your Neck. I need to film it all, you know. And then the audio was terrible. When I got home, I was like, man, I can't even hear this.
Can't listen to that stuff. You're better off to just get the DVD or something like that and just experience it.
You're
like
right.
That,
you're right.
Where it's going to be mastered and mixed properly.
It's so true.
Do you want to shout out? So obviously you've got the Get Down event that's coming up on the 11th of this month. So that'll be it's only a few days away. So how do people get tickets to that?
Yes, sweet man. Tickets are in the link in the Get Down events bio.
I'll put it on the YouTube as well, and on the Facebook and the Instagram page.
And most of the artists, I'm pretty sure, got it in their links in their bio. But look, OzTix, you can find it. Look, it's at the Bergy Band Room. It's a brand new venue, pretty brand new. Look, cool story is the owners of Bergy Band Room, they gave us our first ever shot to do the Get Down one at the Brunny Hotel. So the Brunny Hotel on Sydney Road, RIP, it's not there anymore. But the owners of that place, they opened up a place down the road called the Bergy Shelter. It's like a little bar just before COVID, and they survived through COVID with business and everything. And then they bought the next door and made it into a band room. So I was watching it and talking to the owners like during this time and watching it evolve, and heard about what they want to do with it. And I just wanted to be like, I wanted to make sure that we could get in there when it was ready, you know, because I was excited, like 200 band room, like, wow, like start of Sydney Road. It's like not many venues are like 200 capacity up that side.
That feel good, like it's a good,
Yeah, and like these guys, man, they're very similar to the Get Down. Like they they support like up and coming rock artists, and like it's all about local music, right? So we're in line with their morals and stuff, man. So when they had this venue opening, I was like, man, we have to do something good there. And we were looking at doing like our 5-year anniversary there, but then it wasn't open in time. But yeah, it's been open for like 9 weeks, man. It's like 10 weeks or something. So
it's a super new venue.
I think we're the first ever hip hop gig there.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
Yeah, so like I'm excited, man. It's like 50 years of hip hop. Obviously, we're celebrating, not the day, but like we're just celebrating this year. And we thought it'd be a good idea just to put a hip hop heavy lineup, man. Like we're always very varied in terms of like the genres that we have on our lineups, but this is just hip hop lineup, man. It's the first time we've ever done an all hip hop lineup, so we're excited about it, man. Obviously, Checkmate Viliani, I'm super big fans of both of theirs. Like Viliani, I have said before, I believe is one of the best rappers in Australia, and she couldn't believe I said it, but I still stand by that. I still think she's like one of the best. Grizzly Bastard, if you've heard of him, he's like amazing spitter. Like so many more people should know about this dude. He's almost like the Tech 9 of Melbourne, but like just pays homage to lots of Melbourne stuff as well, like in his rhymes. And I don't know, man. Black Shades and Arrogance as well, like a hip hop duo that we've had on a couple of times in the Get Down. There's amazing, like just high energy, boom back and forth kind of like hip hop lyrics. Like, again, people see these guys and like, man, these guys are from Melbourne. Like, you know, it's almost like you don't know about them unless you see them,
Unless
because
you see them and you experience it.
Yeah, and then Shao One, he's a young guy from the southeast who Shem's actually been taken under his wing a little bit and helping out with producing some of his music and stuff. But he's like someone who I believe has got a really bright future, man. He's just like, he's very varied, and he can do trap, he can do drill, but he can also do boom bap and pay homage to like street riders, and he knows about the elements and stuff because he's got someone like Shem kind of like,
and that's important, isn't it, for the, like, even if you don't do that style of music, it's important to understand the history.
Yep.
That's more important than like just to say, I don't like it, so I don't need to know, is one thing, but to understand it, but then you don't have to fuck with it.
That's right. It's exactly. So yeah, he's super dope, man. And Southside Denny, he's also, he used to be known as Denzel. He was on The Voice a long time ago. He was the first rapper on the Australian Voice. They tried to like make him out to be something that he probably was not there to be. He was trying to like help elevate Australian hip hop and rap, but that big machine wasn't trying to do that, I think, for him.
I couldn't imagine that commercial TV would really understand.
Nah, but he got a big peek behind that curtain, so I think, he's learned a lot from that experience, but he's like rebranded himself now, Southside Denny, and he's super dope as well, man. Just like, I don't know, it's a different kind of style of hip-hop, maybe a newer kind of style, but just, again, got bars, man, and pays homage to those who've done it in the past, man. And Jules, the DJ, he's like, I look at him as like Victoria's turntablist DJ right now. He's like the future. He's like young dude. We were waiting for him to turn 18 for so long so we could get him on gigs, man. Like, really? He just turned 18 last year, and this will be the first DMCs that he'll be in, like, in person, because he was doing the ones during COVID
and stuff.
Yeah, and
awesome.
he was underage before that. So yeah, so I don't know, excited for him, man. He was on our 5-year anniversary, and he was just dope as, man. Like, I don't know, he scratches it flawless, and I don't know, man. He's just, I'm excited about him so much. And then Wasp and Dope Beat, they're like Get Down fam. They've been on nearly every second Get Down, I think. So yeah, just like having a bit of a vibe, man. Just like the sponsors, obviously Fried and Tasty and Union Heights are legends. Crooks, it's like a barber shop. They're doing some big things like for the music scene here at the moment and helping out artists and stuff. And Burn City Rum are also sponsoring the event. So we're going to be announcing some like things in the next few days. Will probably be out by the time this is out, but like in terms of giveaways and what the sponsors are going to be contributing on the night. But I'm super excited anyway, man. As soon as we launched this event, I'm like, man, I can't wait for this. It was like 3 months to go, but now we're like, it's almost here.
And will we see another one before the end of the year? Can't give that.
I think we will. Look, I think we will. It's just when, probably in November. Yeah, I think there'll be one more.
And do you want to just shout out, if anyone wants to get their photo taken, if anyone is interested in your photography, how do they reach out to you there as well?
Oh yeah, so with my photography business, I'm like Detour _flicks on Instagram, but Detour Flicks on Facebook. I mean, look, people can reach out to me. I don't like do my photography like it's a job, man. I just work with people I want to work with. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll probably reach out to people and ask if I can work with them. You know, it's almost the other way around. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
but you might have people that say like, this
100.
dude actually gets the fucking culture.
Oh,
dude.
like,
you know, so.
Appreciate it. Now, look, I'm never gonna say no to, like, you know, that for sure. Hit me up. I'm down to work. It's just I'm just trying to juggle like a lot of time, man. So when it comes to photography, from a selfish point of view, I usually do it for, you know, what I feel like it's gonna benefit me or the Get Down. It sounds terrible, but that's why I do it.
You've got to be precious about your time, because that's one thing we don't have anymore. More time, man. You got to be precious with it.
Oh, but no, look, again, it's I've been loving picking it up again. It's something I put down for a while, obviously because of COVID, but I've been loving shooting with people again. It's been good, man. Like, I actually want to shoot with you when we're done here, just like in this area. I just want to capture you in your environment. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I just like for me, it's like I'm just documenting. I don't know, even people I'm meeting and things like that. We're actually making a documentary about the Get Down. Well, I'm not making the documentary. A documentary maker from Melbourne is making a documentary this year of the Get Down. So
amazing.
He's been like filming artists, and we've been asking them questions, and he's been coming to gigs, filming all the live acts.
I'd love to chat to him if he'd be
100%. Yeah, dude. Yeah. And like, he would have been here tonight. He's just had a lot going on, but the end of the year, we should have like a recap 2023, the year that was. And it's like exciting for me, man, because every gig I want a recap vid, you know? Yeah. But it's hard to get, you know, media teams in when you've got like a shoestring budget. But this guy, he's offered to do it. He's actually someone who's made some pretty big documentaries of, like, you know, overseas and stuff, in awards and stuff. And he offered to do it because he loves like hip hop and what we do. And he said, every time you guys do gigs, it's like you post on the reels and then it's gone in 24 hours. It's like, you know, you should live longer than that, you know what I mean? And I'm like, it's so true, man. But I've just let him go with it. I'm helping him like facilitate things wherever I can. So definitely would love to get you involved, man. Anyone who we've like been involved with this year, we've been inviting to be involved, man. So we'd love to come and ask you questions. Maybe you can answer that question then. What hip hop means to you then? Nah.
I'll do a video. You can even film it. I will do it after this. But thanks for coming, Deets. I appreciate it, man. On the 11th, I'll do my best to get down there, and I hopefully see a bunch of like-minded heads that are just interested in the fucking whole culture, and it would be sick. But I appreciate you taking the time. Thanks, man.
Not much love. Appreciate you, man. Thanks again for having me. And no, I'll see you on that Friday. You're definitely coming down, man.
I'll get there.
It's inevitable.
All right.
Much
Thanks,
love.
man. Cheers.
And big ups to everything that you're doing with this podcast. Like I said, I'm a massive fan. If there's people I can help tap you in with, I'll try. But I'm just like interested to see who you get on next. I want to see you get dug back and hear more of those drain stories in the caves, man. These underground caves and stuff in Melbourne have always intrigued me, man. So
Doug's actually going to take me on one of the adventures. So I might try and get some ex-guests from the show. We could all go down the drains. That'd be sick.
That'd be crazy, man. Amazing. Yeah. But no, much love. Thanks again for having me on and inviting me. I appreciate it so much, man.
Cheers. Thanks, Deets.
Much love.
3,000.